23. That same day, Jesus went out of the house and sat beside the sea. Such great crowds gathered around him that he got into a boat and sat there, while the whole crowd stood on the beach. And he told them many things in parables, saying, Listen, a sower went out to sow, and as he sowed, some seeds fell on the path, and the birds came and ate them up. Other seeds fell on rocky ground, where they did not have much soil, and they sprang up quickly, since they had no depth of soil. But when the sun rose, they were scorched, and since they had no root, they withered away. Other seeds fell among thorns, and the thorns grew up and choked them. Other seeds fell on good soil and brought forth grain, some 100-fold, some 60, some 30. Let anyone with ears listen. Hear then the parable of the sower. When anyone hears the word of the kingdom and does not understand it, the evil one comes and snatches away what is sown in the heart. This is what was sown on the path. As for what was sown on rocky ground, this is the one who hears the word and immediately receives it with joy. Yet such a person has no root, but endures only for a while. And when trouble or persecution arises on account of the word, that person immediately falls away. As for what was sown among thorns, this is the one who hears the word, but cares of the world and the lure of wealth choke the word, and it yields nothing. But as for what was sown on good soil, this is the one who hears the word and understands it, who indeed bears fruit and yields. In one case 100-fold, in another 60, and another 30. This is the word of the Lord.
Thanks be to God. Please be seated. I have a daughter. She's getting older now, 20, and her middle name is Joy. So she's not here today, and as I was hearing that gospel lesson, there was her name. Receive the word with joy, and I think that's the greatest joy there is to receive the word together with your children and your families. This passage that Karen just read for us comes just after a time when Jesus had an encounter with his family that wasn't very nice. It wasn't a joyful encounter. He'd been teaching and preaching in his own home in Capernaum, also known as Capharnaum in the Hebrew. And there was a fountain there. And I wonder if that's why Jesus picked that place, because there was a perennial fountain in Capernaum. Capernaum is up on the plain, and down below it is this very fertile belt about a mile wide. That would be about 1.5 kilometers, and about 6 kilometers long in a big half-moon arc. And part of it is watered by this fountain in that little town, and it comes down and forms a stream, and it goes down the hills and out across the plain, and it's used to irrigate all around and then into the lake where we heard the crowd gathering. Anyway, Jesus had spent the whole day teaching and preaching and healing and helping people, and they hadn't even stopped for lunch or supper or breakfast. And all of a sudden his mother and his brothers show up, and they're saying, call Jesus out here. He's not looking after himself. Call Jesus out there. We want to talk to Jesus. He's our brother. He's my son. He's not looking after himself. We've got to look after him for him. And we don't know what happened. We don't know how that encounter went, because none of the gospel writers tell us about it. And sometimes when things don't go all that well in the family, we cover it with silence. And there it is. And that's what happened in the Gospels too. I don't know. But the next thing we see is Jesus down by the lake. Lake Gennesaret. In the Bible we call it the Sea of Galilee, but that's the wrong connotation. It's fresh water. It's not like the Dead Sea down at the other end of Israel. This is up at the top end of Israel, and it's fresh water. And it's teeming with good fish and all kinds of things you can eat out of the water. And along that part of the shore where Jesus was living in Capernaum, it's very fertile. Maybe when he left his home and he went walking down, maybe he followed the path beside that stream. A path that had no doubt been trodden by many, many, many feet. Many feet. And you know what happens when you walk on the grass with many feet? What happens to the grass? It becomes a path. You might as well pave it over. It's so hard. No grass grows there on the path, does it? What grows on the path? Nothing. Nothing grows on the path. He follows the path, and as he's going down, maybe he passed through some groves of trees. They tell me that there are huge walnut trees that grew there in days gone by. Walnut trees and palm trees with their great... What do palm trees produce? Coconuts. No, those would be coconut trees. And grapevines and olive trees and figs and I wonder if he reached up and picked some of them. And there'd be little weird animals running through the grass, and under those trees they had different kind of animals over there than we have. And maybe there'd be a dog and barking, or a cat scurrying away, or a platypus. That's a weird animal, isn't it? A platypus with a big nose. I don't know what kind of animals are. Well, maybe in Vacation Bible School, you'll all learn about some of the animals from Jesus' time. I don't know if that's on the agenda or not. She's nodding. Yes, it is. And as he gets closer to the water, well, the people in the house, the crowds that had gathered, they're following along the path too. Many feet on the path. Many feet on the path. And other people come from the farmyards and the little crofters' homes and the little gardeners, and they look up and they're over their hoes and they're hoeing the vegetables because it's very fertile, dark, loamy soil. And when you open up that soil, you can just smell life ready to go, ready to come out of that soil. All it needs is a seed and some water and some time and some patience. Like you have to be right now while I talk, and you have to listen. What do you need? Time and life and patience. And hopefully, as I'm talking, there's a seed. It's not just words spilling out of my mouth, but God is speaking too with these lips. And God is reaching out with these hands. And so that when you speak and when you reach out, God is speaking through you and using your hands if the seed has come into your heart. What is the seed? Jesus told us what the seed was. The word of the kingdom of God. We hear lots of words of other kingdoms. Watch the news. There's the kingdom of Iraq, all in a mess. There's the kingdom of the United States, trying to help sort out the mess. There's the kingdom of Canada, blessed and growing. There's many kingdoms. What's this kingdom of God? I wrote something down. I want to read what I wrote. As Jesus begins to speak, he tells a parable which exposes the truth of the world. And as Jesus tells the parable, it also recreates God's world. And as he tells the parable of God's world, we are invited to live in that. We're surrounded by a garden, Gennesaret, which means princely garden, the garden of the king. There's a river of life flowing down through the garden from a fountain where Jesus made his home. It's a parable of seeds and soils and souls, all linked together with growing pains and losses and yields. Yields, hearts, but yielded. And out of that yielding